Hey guys, Cliff Perch here with BassResource.com, and we're talking fall fishing. So when I'm talking fall fishing regarding jig fishing, things get a little bit tricky because, for one, in the fall, the fish start to get all over the place. You might have a population of fish in 1 to 3 feet. You might have another population of fish in 30, 40, 50. So in the fall, the bass tend to spread out. The bait spreads out, and the bass, follow that food. So if you're on a type of fishery where they start to go deep, or if you're fishing for deep fish, there's a number of things that work well for those deep fish. I might be using a spoon, a drop shot, a deep crankbait, maybe an Alabama rig. There's all kinds of deep tools. But if I want to specifically target some of those biggest bass in those deep schools, a lot of times I'm going to go for a jig. I want to use that deep football jig. That means like a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce. Sometimes that will get the best bass in the school to bite. And just in my experience, maybe 10 or 12 years ago, I got one of my biggest wins in my career was on a football jig in the fall at Clear Lake. I won the tournament on the final day, and one of the best days I've ever had. My biggest tournament weight that I've ever weighed was 37.5 pounds, and in an FLW event, it set the Western record for one-day weight at that time, and just one of the most memorable days in my career. But I did it all on a 3/4 ounce football jig, and those fish would bite some other things, and there was lots of 20-pound bags coming in. But in order to get those 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 pounders to bite, the jig was the ticket. One, it doesn't have all that vibration and flash that smart old fish get accustomed to and they shy away from. The jig, it's just supernatural, and big fish tend to still bite the jig even when they get old and smart. So the jig tends to select for that big fish, and that's why I'm going to lean towards using maybe a 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce football jig in the fall. That's those fish that get offshore in the deep rocks. At Clear Lake, for instance, they were on deep rocks. It was deep, I think big volcanic and chunk rock breaks, and those big fish would get around those boulders. And that particular jig, when it's 3/4 ounce, 1 ounce, real heavy, what it does is it falls quick, from ledge to ledge, right there, and they're going to be tight to those big rocks. And when a bluegill or a crawdad or something like that makes a mistake, they've got a short run to grab it. And that's exactly what this looks like. It kind of contours the rocks because it's heavy and it falls. You drag it off and it falls by them, falls by them, falls by them. And so really a good way to trigger those big fish to bite. Now, on the other hand, sometimes in the fall I'm fishing shallow. There were some tournaments, it's been a long time ago now, but I won 3 or 4 boats fishing shallow cover in the fall, because the biggest bass in the lake had gotten up into some flooded mesquite bushes and salt cedars, and instead of chasing bait and really burning a lot of energy like a lot of fish do in the fall, the biggest fish still were kind of hunkered down in the cover, and they were feeding on crawdads and bluegills. So the flipping jig, again, it's a super efficient way to get through cover and not get hung up, but to be putting your bait where the big ones live. It's really hard to get a crankbait in there. Sometimes you can get a buzzbait or a topwater over the top of it. But when they are buried in that cover and they don't want to come to the surface, a flipping jig is just a good way to get them. And it gets the big fish, and it's able to, again, target the specific deep piece of cover that they're in. So I'm going to opt for that jig. It's going to give me a good chance to catch the biggest fish in the area. The little shad chasers, yeah, everybody's going to weigh those in, but if I need the 5 biggest bass that I'm going after, a jig is going to select for that big one. I'm able to get that 3-pounder, that 5-pounder. Those fish that are a little less likely to be roaming, and they're going to own a piece of cover, that flipping jig. So again, when we're talking about jigs and fall fishing, we've got all kinds of extremes, because those fish tend to move throughout the water column. There's a lot wider range of depths that bass will be in, so you've got to kind of find the evidence on the body of water you're on, where you're, what level of water you're fishing. But targeting them with the jig a lot of times will get your biggest bite. So that's fall fishing with the jigs. Okay, as far as tackle goes, when I'm fishing jigs in the fall, I'm going to use some specific differences between my flipping jig and my football jig. My football jig, both of them are going to be heavy action. When you're fishing a jig, you're really setting the hook, so I want heavy action. As far as my football jig goes, this is a 7.7 extra heavy feather from Phoenix Rods. I'm able to cast a long ways with that 7.7. I really like it, and I want to get that football jig way out there. The other thing is I got to move a lot of line, so I like a long rod. Some guys are really comfortable with a 7-footer. If I can get away with 7.5, I really like it a lot better. It moves a little bit more line, and that's important when you've got a long cast out there. You might have a little bow and current, might have some wind. It just helps you move that line. So extra heavy action. As far as my line goes, I want 15 to 17 pound test most of the time. In the fall, because I'm fishing deep with the football jig, 15 to 17 gives me a chance to get it down there and still have the power to wrestle those great big fish. So I don't want to be going real light. I don't want to be going super heavy. You tend to get more buoyancy in your line, and it doesn't want to give you quite the sensitivity. So that 15 to 17 pound range works good, and works good for my football jig. And again, that's the 7.7 extra heavy. Now, as far as my flipping rig goes, I'm using totally different gear. I'm going to go with the 711, and it's a heavy action flipping rod. It's the Super Flipper from Phoenix. Again, powerful hook set. But this one I've got rigged up with braid and a fluorocarbon leader. I got about a 3-4 foot leader on here. I just don't like them to get a real clear look. Now, if you've got muddy water, dirty water, not good clarity, you can get away with straight braid. But I feel like I can get a few more bites by going to that fluorocarbon leader of 20 to 25 pound test. That way they can't see it. Jig, especially the flipping jig, it's not moving real fast. Now, you can move it kind of fast, but they're going to get a pretty good look at it, so I would prefer to get that fluorocarbon leader on there and just cut out the fish that are going to see, there's something a little unnatural, or I can see that line. I want to use that fluorocarbon leader, but again, I'm going to use a heavy action rod. It's a flipping stick, 711. I want to be able to sling them out of the cover. It's a quick hook set. A lot of times it's a short pitch or a skip under a limb, and you're short range fishing. So that big heavy rod gives me power. It's 2 or 3 cranks in the reel, and I'm swinging the bass in the boat. So that's kind of my gear for it. Both are a fast retrieve ratio on my reels. I want speed. I want speed when I'm winding, whether it's taking up a lot of line on a football jig or my flipping jig. I want to be able to, make those 2 or 3 cranks quick and swing that bass in the boat. So as far as gear goes, those are my rod setups, and again, that's fall jig fishing 101. There's just so much variety in the fall that it's hard to do any one thing until you kind of isolate the depth zone you're targeting.